So we're going to follow up on Sandy's talk and think a little bit more about method refinement. I think I'm going to start from a broad method. I guess so this is the slide I showed you yesterday, where we can take information to start and then put it into this targeted method refinement cycle. You've now heard a lot more about this, and you're getting a sense of how much our lab does in this targeted method refinement cycle, and then toward the goal of getting a really high precision quantitative assay. And so what we're going to start with is these are old experiments that we did probably 5-6 years ago, but they still apply and still have useful concepts in how to start and then how to start proceeding and get an idea of how that works in Skyline. So I'm going to actually give you the startup on targeted method refinement. So we will. I'm not sure we'll be really in the build method part, but we're definitely going to go around this refinement cycle a couple times, and you'll see how. So you'll see how that works. And I think, we're not going to this afternoon. We're going to do the differentiation part. So the rest of the slides in this deck are really about what we're going to do this afternoon. So I'm going to switch over to Skyline and get us started on what we're doing right now. So you all should have a flash drive as well. If you don't, it's not plugged into your computer, you're going to need it. We're going to get a new data set out of this. So we're not actually going to build the method for sure. Okay, so hopefully you learned enough about building a method yesterday, building some libraries and stuff. And there's a tutorial, a method editing tutorial on the Skyline website that if you feel like I quite don't know how to configure one of these methods, that's a useful place to look. In tutorials, you want to grab method refine and method refine supplement and drag those over to your documents directory and drop them. And again, this is all SRM data, so it should come across pretty quickly. So at this point, you should have a documents directory that includes, includes method refinement and method refine supplement. Inside method refine, you'll see that there is already a worm unrefined sky file. Does anybody know what the sky.view file is? So that just says your selection state and all the positions of the windows and stuff. So it's the most expendable file in the Skyline files. If you don't care about your layout and your selection, you could actually even delete this file, and it wouldn't hurt your document really. The sky file is really the most important file. It's got all the statistics and data in it. Like even if you lost this SKID file, you could still get a lot of useful information out of the sky file alone. And then the SKID file is what contains chromatograms. So that contains raw chromatogram and peak information. It's also very important, but if you lost it, you could still get useful information out of the sky file. And then this blib file, you can see that there's an associated library, and then everything else is raw data. And then in fact, if you go up here in this refine supplement, we have another set of raw data. So let's go ahead and open up. Gotta make sure that. So I'm going to open Skyline. Some of you may be able to just if you go back to method refine, you may be able to just double click on this worm unrefined. On this machine, I have both Skyline Daily and Skyline installed, so I'm not quite sure what will open up if I double click it. So instead, I'm going to go here to Skyline, get to this start page, click the open thing here, and then go to my documents directory, method refine, and then worm unrefined.sky. And so here I actually have a fully loaded document with all the chromatogram information. We're going to reload it. But you can see if I click on these, I also have spectral library information for each of these peptides. What's another way I can tell that I have spectral library information for all my peptides? If you look at Skyline, what is it? Yeah, the icon has these little slash marks, right? So this. So right off over here, there's these little things that indicate that there's an associated spectrum, and then as we click on them, we can look at them. We can expand here, and this gives us some indication of how we created this document. How do you think I came up with this transition list? Is it the ranking of the spectrum? Yeah, why would I not include Y1 and Y2? If they're really small, they're not selective. Y1 especially is just an arginine or a lysine. So our lab does this fairly typically. Y3 through the last ion. If we go to the settings, transition settings, filter. So this turns out to be a mistake. We're going from ion 3 to the last ion -1. That was a miscommunication between a graduate student who wrote a paper that said I'm going from Y to YN -1, but the N is the length of the peptide. So if you went all the way, so we started setting. I created something where you could go from last ion -1, last ion -2. Last ion is N -1. So if you have a 10 amino acid peptide, then last ion is going to be Y9, right? And so there was a miscommunication in the paper. It said N -1, which means exactly the same thing as last ion. But then people in the lab started setting everything up as last ion -1, and so we actually, just like a couple years ago, realized, oh wait, or maybe last year even, we realized, oh wait, we're actually missing the last ion. So in this case, I bet there's a Y16 available. So is everybody, if you've got this expanded, does everybody understand how to get a list of sort of the potential children? Right, it's you hover over the element, this drop arrow appears, and then if you slide over to that until it turns to a hand, you can click it, and you get this pop-up. And right now, oh, it's unfiltered. So, well, it's got, yeah, okay. In this case, the instrument settings go to 1,500. So you can't get, okay, so let's find something else here. Well, let's see, does that, Y13? No, it's still. The what? That one? One deeper. Okay, so yeah, this one goes to 111, so it's cutting off at Y11, and if we expand it, we can see there is a Y12. And so I started looking at these documents and go, why aren't we ever measuring that last ion? And then I figured it out. So at this point, if you're setting up your own settings, feel free to go from Y3 to last ion, and don't make this, just because you see it in here, don't go, oh, I should do last ion -1 too. That was just a mistake. All right, so yeah, this is a really nice example of a peptide. So the design of this experiment is just to measure everything, and then decide what is measurable and what should we take to the next level. So we just had I guess these are all worm peptides, and I think we just like got a bunch of worm peptides that were in our library. In this case, there are 225 of them. We're like, let's just, this is on, Mike looking at the, if we're so cheap that we never want to buy standards, how far can we get with actually measuring things? And so this is the idea, is like, well, let's just go look in our matrix and see what we think we can measure. And you can see that already at the top there are a fair number of things that we could probably measure. Okay, so but let's back up and re-import the data ourselves. Yes. Yeah, so that has to do with there's a little bit of code in Skyline that I wrote that tries to decide what's got coelution. So in this case, frequently I think it's too lenient, because it's like, okay, what is actually coeluting here? Like, it's chosen this one is the apex thing. So that's I'm going to put my legend back, and well, sometimes it's hard to tell with these colors. So that Y9, that's the dominant peak. And then the question is, what else is coeluting with it? And you can maybe see some stuff underneath it that Skyline might decide is coeluting with it. But then other things like that is like totally not coeluting with it. It's completely outside this thing. So Skyline's trying to make an assessment of like, okay, based on what you chose, what do I think is potentially coeluting? And I would say in general, I think it's too lenient, but you can force Skyline to integrate everything. And how do you do that? Integrate all, right? So we can just go like this, integrate all, and now everything turns green. Skyline just goes, Skyline just goes like, okay, great, you said everything, I'm just going to integrate everything. And so, but I'm going to undo that. This feature was built for this mode. Like, we just measured everything. We want to have some idea of what are the things that are actually coeluting. And it also gives us some idea of which ones we detected really well. So I can expect in this mode where I'm not doing integrate all, if I see green at the peptide level, that should be a pretty good peak. Oh, wow, it is a pretty good peak, And I can expect that if I'm seeing orange at the peptide level or red at the peptide level, chances are it's not very good. So that's why it was designed that way. Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's going to use it's going to use zeros on those reds. So if you're not doing integrate all, it's gonna make the dot product seem even worse than it maybe is. Let's see. Okay, so here's this red one. It's got a dot product of 0.75. If I switch to integrate all, it got worse. So hard to say exactly what it's going to do to the dot product, but it's just treating all the red ones as zeros. It's like, yep, those things were not there. I saw something, but I think it's not really part of my peak. But then when you get into quantitative mode, if you let that's why the integrate all thing is there. We found that if you let Skyline make those choices during a quantitative experiment where you've already chosen, your 3 to 5 transitions, you're going to get worse data if you don't just like integrate everything that's there. So you let Skyline kind of throw things out. And there are better, like it's not a super well designed statistical method for throwing things out. There are strategies around discarding transitions from your quantification for quantitative statistics. This just is not, that's not what this is. These little red dots were designed for being in this refinement mode where we're going, okay, what do I think I detected? And you can scan down this list and you can already get a sense of, well, there are some green ones, those are probably okay. Well, that's not even that great. But, a lot of the green ones are going to be real detections. And a lot of the red ones are going to be garbage. So, okay. Oh, okay. Okay, view, retention times, replicate comparison. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if I let me put it up here, and here are just some blank spots. Yeah, we can do it for peak areas too. View peak areas. Although it's maybe it's a little bit harder to tell which ones are. Yeah, that's true. Yep. All right. Okay, so let's grab. So now that we've got the retention time plots, did everybody? I guess I might have just dragged this over and docked it here. Do people have it docked on the right side? Maybe from this morning or not? If it's not docked on the right side, again, just grab it and put your cursor in the middle of that right box and dock it on the right side. I'm going to get rid of at least one of these legends. I'm going to get rid of the chromatogram legend. I'm also going to take this library view and I'll dock it with on top of the retention times view by putting my cursor in the middle box. So now they're tabbed and I can look at either one. Okay, so let's get to actually re-importing this data. So you'll notice actually that, let's just go re-import it. So edit, manage results, remove all. Edit, manage results, remove all. So you have that empty form just like I do. And then click OK. And now you don't have the results. And then you also want to save at that point. If you don't save, Skyline won't actually get rid of that SCID file and it will try to reuse things. So when you do edits to manage results that you want to keep, you should click save. Okay, so now we'll go to File, Import Results. And here's where we choose a different option. So I'm going to, because I'm measuring so many transitions at this point, it actually took us quite a few SRM runs to cover them all. Now, again, I would say at this stage, we probably do this stage of the experiment with DIA today, but it's worth understanding this because there are other cases for SRM and PRM where you might actually have what we call multi-file replicates. So multiple runs to cover everything in your document. That's the case here. And so before, how many replicates did we have before? What we just got rid of, we had one, right? It was unrefined. So we're going to say add one new replicate. We're going to call it unrefined. And now you've just set yourself up for what we were just looking at. And if you wanted to actually do multi-injection replicates, like lots of them, so that you had more than one, then I would say the best option is add multi-injection replicates in directories, which if you hover over that, it explains to you how you can organize your replicates into directories. And this data set actually contains one of these. We'll get to this in a second. You can organize them into directories so that you can just point at a directory and everything gets imported and it looks nice. So, but we're going to start with this one new replicate. So go ahead and click OK. And let's go up to what we're interested in is up to documents and then method refine supplement. You can see all these, 39 files. So what you've been used to so far is every time you select a set of files, and each file gets its own replicate time, right? You can see them all side by side. In this mode, we're just going to stuff everything into one replicate, and our expectation is that that's going to cause something that covers everything we're interested in covering, because they have measurements that are distinct. They're not measuring the same thing. So in our replicate runs, we're measuring the same thing over and over. In these runs, we're measuring different things in every run. So I like to click and drag a box to select everything, and then click open. That goes pretty quickly on my machine. Whoops, what's going on? What's that? But I should also, so are people comfortable with this form? I can, so at this point, I've got this little push pin down. I can turn it sideways or put it down. And when it's down, it's going to stay up even once it's finished, once it's done. I could click hide here. And once I've done that, I can always get it back by clicking this little button next to the progress bar down in the status bar. So there it is. And now because this push pin is down, it's going to stay here, and it's going to tell me how long it took to import everything. So that can be nice if you leave your machine and you're like, well, how long is Skyline taking to do this? Now it's done, and how long did it take me to import everything? 56 seconds, right? So I frequently, if I'm leaving, I like to leave that, and then you can sort of scroll up and see how the data looked, just from an import perspective. How are people doing? Is everybody through that? Anybody not through that? Okay, good. So close. So you now have a document that, you're back to having a document that was in the state that we started with. There's one tab, and then coverage on everything. Let's just quickly go back. Let's quickly go back and see what that would have looked like if we hadn't done the one replicate. So go to Edit, Manage Results, Remove All. Okay, and don't save this time, please. So your data, your replicate is gone, but at this point, since we haven't saved, all those chromatograms are sitting in our SCID file, so they're ready for us. So there's not going to be any wait. So go File, Import, Results. And so now if we'd forgotten to say, oh, we want to use one replicate, and we just clicked OK here, which is sort of the knee-jerk response to this dialog, I always think. And then if we go up to Documents, Refine Supplement, and select everything again. So we want Method Refine Supplement, import, we're importing results, and we select everything, but we left everything telling Skyline that every file gets its own replicate, and then click Open. Oh, and now it says, oh, well, how do you want to name these things? And we'll go ahead and remove the prefix again, as we've done in other exercises. So click Remove, and boom, now I have a tab for every one. And let's see, scroll down here. How do I find which replicate NVESPF was measured in? Well, probably the best way is view retention times, replicate comparison. There we go. Now I can click on something. What's that? Oh, it's also got some kind of measure. But yeah, so I could be viewing these things by, oh, well, that was measured in that run, and then I would click on it. But I have to activate these tabs. Oh, wow, that's so interesting. It's ordered by acquired. Mine is ordered by acquired time. Does anybody else have ordered by acquired time? Okay. If you had ordered by acquired time, you also would have it always showing up on the far left, because that's the only place that it's, the acquired time ordering, we'll stick the thing with the acquired time on the far left. So I'm going to switch to order by document, and now I get more what I was expecting, which is as I choose around, the retention times in which it gets detected move around in this graph. But so that's a pain. That what? What? Yeah, you could do that too. So that's kind of a neat trick, especially if you've messed things up this badly. You can go. Is it here? No. Oh, replicate, best replicate. Yeah. So if you have then all of a sudden now it's showing you results on every peptide, and it will jump around for you. Yeah, that's kind of a cool trick. And that was done for people doing fractionation experiments, where you really can't. You don't want to put everything in a single replicate because there is some overlap, but yeah, that was very useful for that, but that's not really what we want to do. What we would much prefer to do is just undo that and twice and get back to where we actually have everything in one replicate, and then that makes life a lot simpler. We see our retention time graph just shows one thing. All right, so okay, so let's actually go through what we would have done to. Well, I'm gonna skip that. Oh yeah, let's do it. Okay, so how do we get the measurement that measured this? How do we get the method, the instrument method that measured it, and how many instrument methods did we have? Did we have just one? Yeah, we had to have 38 or 39 because this is a targeted run, and so whether it's PRM or SRM, we have to tell the instrument what to measure. So let's go through how to do that. So file, export, transition list. There's also an export method, but it requires that we have a method template and where we know what instrument we're going to export to. So for this case, we're just going to do transition list, which we can import into a template method later. We'll let it go ahead with thermo. And now we have to make a choice of single method, one per protein, or multiple methods. Who thinks what should we choose? Well, multiple methods. Yeah, it would be a very fast instrument if it could measure 2,000. Think of this. This is our exhaustive method, and you can see that. Actually, I should show this. Cancel. So, is everybody looking at the peak zoomed in, like this, or are some people looking at it zoomed out? Zoomed out. Okay. So the most important keyboard command in Skyline, I think, is F11 and Shift F11. So if you're looking at it zoomed in like me, press Shift F11, and now you're zoomed out. And who can tell me how long a gradient this was? Yeah, something 100, whatever, 120, 90. So these early refinement runs, we don't have any retention time information. So we just measured the entire gradient. And again, this, maybe that would be true if we're looking in DIA or something. There are more sophisticated methods to get to this information, but you should know how this is possible. And then F11 to zoom back in. So yeah, it would be, we're measuring over the entire gradient, 2,000. So that would mean that we'd have to have a mass spectrometer that could comfortably measure 2,000 transitions in a loop. Which I don't know of any that can. So file, export, transition list again. If you're not there, we're gonna do multiple methods, and now we get to decide the maximum transitions per sample injection. And my notes say that was 59. So that's pretty low for a modern mass spectrometer. I think it would be in the hundreds today. but that was what we felt we should do at the time with a I think it's like four generations of thermo triple quadrupole before that was what we had. So how many methods is that going to give me? 39, exactly what we saw before. So let's just go with that. So in method type, we have choice between standard, scheduled, and if we choose scheduled, at this point it says we must do some work. So we're actually trying to get an unscheduled one. So we'll just go with standard and click OK, and then here we are in our method refine, and we're just going to call it worm underscore or just worm. It will be the name of our methods. So type worm and click save. And Skyline does that pretty much instantly. And now if we go back to that method refine folder, you'll see all these worm methods put here. So this is exactly the source of all, these methods basically imported into a template. Here they are, this is like the Q1, the Q2, retention time, I think, or no, collision energy. Sorry, this is not, and then some identifying information here. So that's how we got the method that produced those. They're the methods that produce those raw files. Okay. Yeah.
Like from the last website, you have 6 times, 3 are and you can prove that you are splitting.
No, Skyline won't split them up. Skyline will make sure that they're all whole. Yeah. So it's doing that for you. If you looked in these, we said there's a 59 transition limit, but if you look in them, they're not all exactly 59. 49. So it's like, oh, yeah, can't fit that, and it does that for scheduled methods as well, which it's a lot harder problem for scheduled methods. Okay, so the way we would then refine this is, we would look at this one and go, yeah, I don't think we really detected that, right? Yeah. Oh, did you change your settings? I didn't actually say for anybody to change their settings, but yeah. So I just left the document as is with because if you change your settings, transition settings. If you had changed your settings, then you're going to have an unmeasured ion, right? There are going to be a lot of unmeasured ions. So the way you can get rid of them really quickly, so if you want to get down, you can go to Edit, Refine, Remove Missing Results. Oh, that's actually, never mind. That's going to get rid of a teachable moment. Yeah, so I guess I would just go to Settings and move back to last ion -1. So let's see. If I go to last ion, do I get... Yeah, I get exactly the same thing. And then since I just did it, I can do undo. And now I'm back to my thing. So, okay, so that explains that one. So let's look at some of these things and decide whether we keep them for the next round or get rid of them. Right? So we could do this manually. We could go down here and say, no, not keeping that one. Yeah, that looks good. Probably this red one's not going to look any good. This one looks good. And we can get through, it's 223 probably pretty quickly, but there are some automated ways of doing this also. Let's have a look at, so we've been looking at this replicate comparison of retention times, which is really not all that interesting because we only have one replicate, so can't really tell much about our chromatography. So let's right click and change the graph type to regression score to run. And again, you can get there from view, retention times, regression, score to run. I'm going to pop this window out so it's bigger. You can too if you want. If you double click on something, it will pop out of the main window and just sit up on top. Which, how did I get to this one?
Yes.
Okay, so this, you can right click on the graph, and then the top item is graph.
Yes.
And then you just choose regression, score to run. That's the way I usually do, because and then if you click on the title bar, this will pop out, and you may have to resize it, but it's floating up above Skyline. So you can see that, and Skyline already defaults to, you can see that some of these really do not at all match the predicted retention times by SSR count. Right? And Skyline, what are the purple ones? Yeah.
Is there any reason why some regression that's very different of the y-axis doesn't combine?
Yeah, so that would be if you have your calculator not set to auto. You might have an IRT calculator that we created this morning or something like that. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. You see, I switched from this morning. Yeah, so if you go to plot, and yeah, so residuals would be like, whoa, yeah. So that's the residuals, and then you can go plot correlation, and you'll see this. All right, so there's outliers. So Skyline has decided, Skyline basically is tuning the regression to come up with an R of 0.95, and then everything that it needs to get rid of to achieve that is considered an outlier. So that becomes purple. And then it shows us our true R of all data measured is 0.34, which is not very good. What else do people see on this graph? Well, I mean, I've never commented on this before, but I just kind of noticed that there's a line here at about 70 minutes, which isn't really quite the end of the chromatography. But things seem to be kind of lining up there. Where else are there interesting points? Yeah, 0. What does it mean? I guess that means what? What do people think that means? They didn't stick to, so did they come out at 0 or what? What? Let's go click on one. So you click on it, and so here we get no dot at all. And that means that Skyline never saw a transition that matched any of these transitions. So for some reason, there's no measurement, there's no record of any kind of measurement of these things. And boy, that was confusing to me when I started with it. And so every time, and I used a debugger and looked at the Skyline code for a while and looked at the values. But every time I do that, I try hard to then think about how a normal Skyline user could figure out what I've just learned. And so if you select the peptide above this range, so there's a whole range of missing values, right? So select the peptide above that. And then actually, I'm going to put the retention time plot back by double-clicking on its title. Okay, so now you can see the chromatogram for that peptide. Undo all zoom and pan. Oh, that's very strange. You can see that one and that one. Okay, I don't know what happened there. But you can see it, and what is new and unusual about this plot that you see here? It's actually up at the top here. Yeah, there's this little file box here, And if you drop it, you can see, hey, wow, this peptide was measured in worm O27 and O28, and you can look at them and say, yeah, they were definitely multiple measurements of this same peptide. And then if you continue selecting up, you'll see that there's a whole range of peptides that were measured in 27 and 28. So how do you interpret that? What does that mean? What happened? What did the instrument operator do? What happened? Yeah. So this is the reason we have file export method now. So she did file export transition list before export method existed, and then she sat down with a method template and generated all the method files, and then put them all into a sample list. And so there's a bunch of steps, and my interpretation is that when she was pairing methods with transition lists into methods, she ended up naming the same transition list put into two methods. She named one method 27, one method 28, and then she skipped this one. And there's actually two of these blank spots now. This one too. And if you look at the peptides before it, eventually you get to a place where, whoa, that's just, why is that? Huh. How about down here? Yeah. So in this case, it's really the spot afterwards where 35 and 36 got measured twice, and the true 35 never got measured. So, yeah. How can you want? Did you select the right peptide? It's depending on what peptides you're selecting. So not all the peptides were only measured once, but some of them were measured twice. All right, so let's go.
Can I just ask quickly? So I feel
Yeah.
like you're clicked on peptide transition B, A, B, or whatever.
Yeah.
I wanted to search for a specific peptide.
Yep. Control F.
Okay. And then okay.
And actually, Control F is really nice. You can search for peptides. You can search for pretty much any text that's over this target view. Skyline Integration.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, you can. So you're still in a mode where you. So he was still in the mode where he had a tab. He had a tab for every. So if you looked across the top here, he was still back with a tab across for every run instead of that. And so I just undid back to when he had a single tab. So it was the whole. We did a step where we did manage results, removed everything, and then we imported everything as single injection replicates. And if you stayed at that point, then things look different from what we're looking at. Okay, so let's go over some of the automated ways to do refinement. So edit. One automated way is if we have this, we could just go remove outliers, right? And now we get rid of all the retention time outliers. How many peptides did that remove? Who can tell me how many peptides that removed? It removed 800 peptides? Transitions, probably. 40 something. So if I go Control Z, whoops, I'm up on the. If I Control Z, I can see that I had 223 peptides. Control Y, I end up with 145. So about 70 something. What? How did you get rid of peptides already? $223? Yeah, so how, and then when you say remove outliers, you're ending up with something else. So are you on the 300, this SSR calc 300 angstroms? Okay, right click. Does your graph look like this exactly? What? But do you have, is your purple R 3481? Okay. What? Well, that's 3.70. We're using the same thing. Okay, so how about this? Let's look at set threshold. Is everybody at 0.95? 0.9. So switch to 0.95, which will sync you up with me. What?
I think that's a big difference.
That's the big difference, is 223 versus 225? I deleted 2. What? At the beginning, when we were doing a review, I said, "Oh, let's do a manual review. Here, let's delete this one. Here, let's delete this one." So if you delete, whoa, gotta love this undo record here. Okay, so I will just undo those, so that I have 225 also. And now everybody has. Do people have that now? Okay. And everybody has 3539. That's what you were saying. Oh, okay. All right, we're all together. So now if we go right click and remove outliers, we all end up with 147 peptides, right? Oh, we're okay. This is great. What? So another thing we could do. So let's undo that. Undo that, so we get our outliers back. And then we can go to Edit, Refine, Advanced. And now we get the chance to set a really advanced set of refinements. Okay, so we'll just click over the Results tab. And we have a bunch of, the nice thing about this dialog is anything you don't set has no impact. So we're going to say maximum transition peak rank is 6. Max transition peak rank is 6. And then we're going to remove nodes missing results. What's that going to do for us? Going to get rid of those peptides that we didn't actually measure, right? And then we're going to have a target R, and then in this case, we'll go ahead with 0.95, and then we're going to use a minimum .p of 0.952. So that's really good stuff. We want, we want only the best right now. We'll see where we end up. And so knowing that we can always do undo, right? So is everybody set up that way? All right, here we go. How much really awesome data do we have? Whoa, boy, that is a lot less than I was expecting. I'm not sure what happened there. So let's try again. Edit, refine, advanced. Wow, that was terrible. That doesn't make any sense to me. So okay, we're gonna remove missing results, and we're gonna go with 0.9 and 0.75 on the dot product, and click OK. Okay, max 6. There we go. All right, so let's try that one. Okay, that's better. Yeah, we're left with 106 peptides. So that is another way that we can get pretty nice data. I'm going to put the retention time plot away so that we can kind of scroll down through these things. And you can see that probably pretty many of these you would take through to a next, maybe all of them. And so then you can decide, well, that looks so good, I'm going to relax things even further, or not. Right? Okay, so let's just undo that. And now we're going to get to, well, sure. Let's go see. I'm going to redo that. So let's think about if we were to schedule this. So now let's say, okay, we think, hopefully we have 622 transitions. Maybe we could get those all into one run, and then we can start doing scheduled replicates, right? So, let's change our retention time plot to view retention times scheduling. Did you guys look at this one before as part of the tutorial? Okay, so this gives you some idea. I'm going to pop it out again so we can look at it. This gives you some idea of how well your mass spectrometer could handle this data in a scheduled method. And you get to choose, is your chromatography, what's the variance in your chromatography? Do you think you could get everything within 10 minutes? Like the peaks to stay within 10 minutes? Or can you actually get it within 5 minutes? Or, wow, do you have amazing chromatography and you could keep them all within 2 minutes? So you have to make a choice here. Here, I think most what's going on? Most modern mass spectrometers would be just fine with 100. Right? So we could do a little more than 100. And that would be a 5-minute window. So we could export this into a single method with a 5-minute window. So let's go do that. First thing we need to check is go to settings, peptide settings, prediction. Okay, and it says here we don't have a retention time predictor. We haven't done any IRTs. We're not going to try to use SSR calc to predict retention time. Whoa, we do have a retention time predictor. What happened? What is? Okay, we're going to go with none. I don't know what this is. Okay. Anyway, so we have no retention time predictor, and we're just going to use measured retention times when present. Are measured retention times present? Yeah, we just measured them all. But we want to switch to a 5-minute window, right? Because that's what we decided would be acceptable. So click OK. And then File, Export Transition List. And now we want everything in a single method. And we want to make sure we're doing scheduling. And now we get some other choices for thermo methods that we don't really care about here. But that would be it. We could now go export. And we could just call this scheduled. And now if you go to the method refinement folder, we would have this one, where is it? Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. One schedule.csv. So here it is. It's a transition list. Looks a lot like the last one, except there's there are 2 extra columns for retention time, and then everything is 5 in the other column, which means that we're using a center time and a window width. There was a checkbox there where we could do start and end times too. But yeah, so pretty easy to now set up this method to measure it scheduled. Everybody with me? Okay, so I'm going to close that down. Now we'll pretend that we had gone and measured that thing. Okay, so I'm going to undo the refinement that got me the small lists. So I get back to my complete list. Get back to your complete list where everybody has 225 peptides. Okay, I'm going to redock the retention times view, and we'll switch it back to regression score to run. Okay, so everybody's the same, and we're going to go ahead and edit, manage results, remove all, and OK. And save to get rid of the skid file. Whoops. Oh, I did undo it. File, save, click that little disk. And now let's go import scheduled data. So go file, import results. Which type of replicate, what kind of replicates are we going to be doing? Single injection, right? Yeah. So single injection, click OK. And there they are, these 5 runs. And so select all 5 of them. Anybody need more time? Okay. So and then click open. And then so in this view you can either remove everything, or if you want the rep on the beginning, we can just backspace over that to the underscore. So scheduled underscore is now, that prefix is going to be removed and not everything. So, and then click remove. So now you can see repo 1, repo 2, 3, 4, and 5. In the tabs, you can see everything getting imported. Because I've got the push button down, it stays around. How long did it take me to import that? 6 seconds. All right, okay, we're gonna do, who took the longest? 9 seconds? Anybody longer than 9? If I had, okay. Yeah, if I had this hidden, like so, yeah, I'll just undo that. Control Z, save. So if I were to go file, import, results, do it again, nobody has to follow me this time, but you click open, whoops, actually, if I click this, every time I do an import, I have a choice of whether or not to show that thing, right? So at the beginning of an import, if I have this checked or unchecked, that determines whether that's going to show up. I click OK, OK with that. And now I'm going to do this and remove. And now it's importing, but the progress, and there's a little button here. And if I click that button quick enough, there we go. There it is. Except I didn't get all my files. Okay. One more time. File, import, results. Yeah, okay. And then, yeah, I missed this first one. Open. And okay, so yeah, there's this little button here on the status bar to bring it up. Okay. So now we have a really messed up document. There's lots of stuff that didn't get measured. But we can easily fix that by going to Edit, Refine, Remove Missing Results, right? And now we have really nice stuff. Is everybody caught up to that? Does everybody have 65 peptides and 195 transitions? Okay. Well, we got apologies to those people I've lost. We've got 10. We're probably actually only going to do 5 more minutes and just quickly look at this data. So let's go to View, Retention Times, Replicate Comparison. And now we can see the retention times, the replicates of them, which is more interesting because we have 5. We could go to View, Arrange Graphs, Tile to see all the chromatograms together. And we can start to get a sense of what this refined data looks like. We could also do View Peak Areas Replicate Comparison and take that and dock it at the bottom. And so this says peak area percentage. What do I have to do if I actually want to see the full peak areas? Do people know that here? What? Yeah, we have to. It's normalized to total. So we right click, normalize to none, and now we can see the dot products. Dot products of 3 are not so super useful, but I guess it's encouraging that they're close, they're high. So, I mean, I think you could go down through these fairly quickly, and they're all really nicely integrated. And oh yeah, that's the selection. That's the so if you click right, and then you can also click here, right? If we go back to View Arrange Graphs tabbed, that can be even more useful because the box is around the one that I'm clicking on, right? But yeah, that's pretty nice data, and we're just basically now we've gone through that's a refinement. We started with a bunch of stuff and we did some measurements, and we've gone multiple times through that cycle. There's actually, if you do the full tutorial, there's another cycle that we went through, and that's captured in the method refine folder. There are these unscheduled runs that we did before doing the final choice of and 5 replicates. So here we have, this would be, to import this data, you would choose that, multi-injection replicates in folders. Anyway, question? Okay. Yeah, so this afternoon, we're going to, so that's sort of basic detection level refinement. And then, what Mike was the one who came up with this was like, well, so would you order synthetics? So you're doing a study. You start out with a bunch of things you hope to study. Now you're down to things that you can at least detect, and you think you can detect repeatedly. Would you go order the synthetic peptides yet? Let's see, 65. I mean, it's getting kind of reasonable. It's better than 225. Would you go to your boss and say, I have 65 detectable peptides. I think I need to go order some taxing. Well, what would you do next? I mean, you could do like, I mean, we've actually got some clue about, well, depending on how quickly we acquired these. If we had acquired these over days, we might have some insight into degradation. So, but still, what Mike was the one who pointed out is like, well, we could at least do an initial differential study, right? We could at least, because like, okay, we can detect these peptides, but they may be completely irrelevant to what we're trying to study, right? So let's go actually do some kind of perturbation. If we're looking for biomarkers or we're looking for something that at least shows some sign of differentiating this, an interesting perturbation. And so this afternoon after lunch, we're gonna do some panorama, and then after that we'll go back and look at a study where we looked at it's a rat heart failure study, where we had some rats in one group and some rats in another group, and we've done all of this. You've now done all these refinement steps. We had done those too, and we were like, okay, the next step is to take our refined list and decide which ones show some difference, are useful. And we'll go through that. And with that, I release you for lunch, and we'll be back here at 1 o'clock. And yeah, lots more to play with.